If you ever want to know the exact moment a marriage starts to rot, look for the day one person starts using the phrase, "you wouldn't understand." That was Ryan's new favorite sentence, usually delivered with a soft chuckle, the kind that felt rehearsed. I used to think it meant he was growing smarter, wiser even. Turns out, it meant I was no longer on the guest list for his version of the future. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. That morning, I was ironing his graduation gown. The fabric smelled like starch and smugness. Ryan sat at the kitchen table, reading an article from the Harvard Law Review, which he didn't actually write but held, as if it had his signature at the bottom. The coffee mug in front of him read, "Future Legend." I'd bought it last Christmas, back when I still found his ambition charming rather than contagious in the worst way. "Don't press too hard," he said without looking up. "You'll leave a shine on the fabric." I bit my tongue. Right, because nothing says professional like a reflective sleeve. He finally looked up, frowned, then softened it into the kind of smile men use when they think you're being silly. "I'm just trying to help, Lena." Sure, help me, like when he helped me by reminding me that waitressing wasn't a career, or when he helped by telling his classmates I was between opportunities. Apparently, balancing 5 plates on one arm didn't count as a skill in his world. We were quiet for a while. I folded the gown carefully, placed it over the chair, and took a long breath. "So," I said, pretending casualness, "what time should I get there tomorrow?" "I'll take the morning off." Ryan's spoon clinked in the mug. He stirred, though there was nothing left to dissolve. About that. There it was, that tone. "I think it's better if you skip the ceremony," he said lightly. "You'd be bored. It's long, just speeches and names." "Names," I repeated, "including yours." He hesitated, as if trying to find the kindest way to drop something heavy. "It's not that I don't want you there, Lena. It's just, my parents will be in town, and the partners from the firm. It's going to be a whole event, very formal." I crossed my arms. "I own a dress. 2, actually." "That's not the point," he rubbed his temple. "They just have certain expectations. It's complicated." "Oh, it's complicated," I said, half laughing. "What part's complicated? The part where your wife claps for you, or the part where she's not classy enough for the crowd?" He sighed, the kind that sounds like the end of patience. "Lena, please, don't make this dramatic." I wanted to throw the iron, not at him but at the invisible wall that had been growing between us. "You're ashamed of me," I said, and it came out calm, not angry. Calm was worse. He smiled, almost apologetic. "No, I'm not ashamed. I just think we come from different worlds." I stared at him, the man I'd shared late-night ramen with, the man who'd once cried when our old car broke down because he thought we'd never get out of debt. Now, he was talking like a walking brochure for class mobility. "Different worlds," I repeated, quieter now. "You mean the world where people work for a living, and the world where people pretend they don't?" He laughed, not cruelly but carelessly, like it was nothing. "You're overreacting." That laugh, it carved something inside me clean open, not in the gory sense, but in the irreversible one. I turned back to the ironing board, pressed down hard, and this time I did leave a shine. A bright stripe, right across his sleeve. "Congratulations," I said, handing it to him. "You're ready for the big stage." The next day, I went to work instead. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and maple syrup. The lunch crowd was loud, and the grill hissed like it had an opinion. I tried to lose myself in the rhythm of orders. 2 pancakes, 1 club sandwich, hold the pickles. But every laugh from the corner table sounded like Ryan's. Diane, my coworker and part-time gossip columnist in her own head, slid next to me at the counter. "So, your big man's graduating today, right?" I poured coffee into a mug, careful not to spill. "Yep." She leaned closer. You going? Nope. Her eyes widened. Why not? I'd be waving banners if I were you. Guess I'm not the waving type, I said. She frowned, but before she could ask, the bell above the door jingled. A group of young men in suits walked in, all charm and confidence, laughing too loudly. One of them had the same model of tie Ryan used to practice knots with. For a moment, my hand froze around the coffee pot. They looked like people who had never worked a day behind a counter, never balanced tips to pay rent. I wondered if Ryan was laughing like that right now, standing among them, adjusting his perfect gown. Table 4, Diane called, pulling me back. I moved, smiling at customers, taking orders, pretending that the clinking of silverware didn't sound like applause I wasn't allowed to hear. Around 3, my phone buzzed. A picture from Ryan, him in cap and gown, surrounded by friends. The caption read, "We did it." We. I wiped my hands on the apron, typed back, "Congratulations, you look like you belong there." Then I deleted it before sending. That evening, I walked home through the long stretch of Maple Avenue, the kind of neighborhood where everyone watered their lawns at the same time. The houses looked smug too, each one with its perfect porch swing and smiling mailbox. When I got inside our small apartment, his gown was hanging on the back of the chair, still gleaming from my overzealous ironing. There was a note on the counter. Went to dinner with the team. Don't wait up. Love, love. The word looked smaller than usual. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the note, then at my own reflection in the window. A woman with tired eyes, a waitress uniform, and hands that smelled faintly of syrup. I thought about how I used to cheer him up when he failed exams, how I'd saved every tip to pay the rent, how I believed we were building something together. I laughed quietly. Guess I was just the scaffolding, I told my reflection. Temporary. To be removed once the structure's done. The next morning, I walked into the living room to find Ryan packing. Not moving out packing, just rearranging his things into boxes labeled Law Office. He looked different, like someone who'd decided his reflection needed new lighting. I'm starting at Cooper and Blaine next week, he said proudly, full-time. That's great, I replied. We can finally replace the toaster that electrocutes us for fun. He smiled, not getting the sarcasm. Yeah, about that. They're relocating me downtown, closer to the office. It's just temporary, but I felt the floor tilt slightly. You're moving out? It's just for convenience. You know how traffic is. You can stay here for now. I blinked at him. Stay here, in our apartment. He hesitated, then nodded, clearly uncomfortable. It'll be easier for both of us. For both of us, the phrase people use right before they walk away. A week later, he moved out. I helped him load boxes into the back of a sleek company car, pretending not to notice that he'd left behind our old frame photos. When he closed the trunk, he gave me a quick hug, polite, distant. Take care, Lena, he said softly. Take care. Not, I'll miss you. Not, we'll figure this out. I watched the car pull away until it vanished around the corner. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. Diane showed up later with a bottle of cheap wine and the kind of sympathy that smells like curiosity. He's really gone? She asked. Yep. You okay? I shrugged. I'm fine. I've got my job, my place, my sense of humor. She laughed nervously. You always joke. It's either that or cry, and I hate wasting water. That night, I sat on the balcony with the bottle half empty, watching the sprinklers mist the lawns below. Somewhere, Ryan was celebrating a new beginning, probably telling someone that his ex was nice but simple. 3 months later, I found the courage to check his social media page. He'd changed his status to single first, then in a relationship a week later. Her name was Vanessa Cole, one of those polished smiles from his firm. Her profile picture looked like an ad for expensive choices. Diamond earrings, sleek hair, and that confident tilt of the chin people get when they've never been told no. I scrolled until I saw a photo of them at a restaurant. Our restaurant, the one we used to go to when we could barely afford dessert. She wore my favorite color. He wore the same tie. I shut the laptop and whispered, "Enjoy the upgrade, Ryan." Then I made myself a list. 1. Find extra shifts. 2. Pay off the loan. 3. Forget the man who laughed. I taped the list to the fridge. It stayed there for years. Life settled into routine. I worked, saved, learned everything I could about running a kitchen. The restaurant's owner liked my grit and taught me how to manage suppliers, costs, and customers. He said I had the instincts of someone who'd been hungry before, not just for food, but for control. 2 years later, when he retired, he sold me the place at half its worth. "You're the future," he said. I didn't tell him how funny that sounded. By the time I turned 32, I'd expanded to 3 locations. People started calling me Chef Moore, as if the title itself could erase the years I spent balancing trays and swallowing humiliation. I smiled every time someone used it. Still, some nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if Ryan ever thought of me. Not out of longing, out of curiosity, the same way you wonder about the price of something you once threw away. Then, one Thursday afternoon, while reviewing invoices in the office, my phone rang. "Moore's Catering, how can I help you?" A cheerful woman replied, "Hi, this is Meredith from Golden Gate Events. We're planning a high-profile wedding, and the groom specifically requested your company." I leaned back. "That's flattering. Who's the lucky couple?" There was a pause, some shuffling of papers. Ryan Moore and Vanessa Cole. For a moment, the room tilted. Not dramatically, more like the slow spin you get from standing up too fast. "Sorry," I said evenly. "Could you repeat the groom's name?" "Ryan Moore. He said you come highly recommended." I smiled. "Oh, I bet he did." The woman laughed, oblivious. "So, can we book a meeting to discuss the menu?" I tapped my pen against the desk, staring at the framed certificate above my computer. Excellence in Hospitality 2022. "Absolutely," I said. "Tell him I'm thrilled to serve." After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long moment. Then I let out a laugh. Not bitter, not joyful, just real. The kind of laugh that sounds like the start of something. Outside, the sprinklers began again, whispering across perfect lawns. And for the first time in 6 years, I thought, maybe it's my turn to water something of my own. The first thing you learn, running a kitchen, is that control is an illusion. You can have prep lists, timelines, labeled bins, a color-coded board worthy of a crime drama, and still, the fryer goes down at dinner rush, and the delivery guy brings you 12 pounds of kale instead of basil, because they're both green. Relax. The second thing you learn is that the people who smile most at you are absolutely talking about you, the second you walk into the walk-in cooler. So, in that way, Willow Creek and restaurant life, same sport. By the time I hit 32, I wasn't Lena who covers weekends at Bonnie's Diner anymore. I was Lena Moore, owner and head of Morehouse Kitchen, plus Morehouse Catering, plus, if we're bragging, Morehouse Cafe at the Lakeside Athletic Club. I never meant to build an empire. I just wanted to not feel small again. I still wore my old diner sneakers in the main kitchen, though. Keeps me honest. The morning after that phone call about Ryan's wedding, I walked into my flagship restaurant through the back entrance instead of the front. The front is for customers and investors, people who like to be told their reservation is a privilege. The back is for the ones who get burned and keep moving. The kitchen was already awake. Eli was at the main station, chopping onions with surgical precision. Eli Turner, mid-30s, tattoo sleeves, calm, like a weighted blanket, permanently unimpressed in a way that was actually comforting. He joined me in year 2 and never left. Everyone assumes we're secretly together. We're not. We fight like siblings and split profits like business partners. And if that disappoints the romantic, candle-loving crowd, they can go watch streaming shows like everyone else. "You're late," Eli said without looking up. "It's 9 a.m. "Exactly. You're late." "I had to stop and buy a new notebook," I said, holding it up. "A notebook," he said flatly. "Yeah, I needed something to write in while I ruin a man." That got him. He finally paused, knife hovering mid-air. "All right," he said. "Now I'm listening." I leaned against the stainless prep table. "You remember Ryan?" "The law guy?" "My charming ex-husband." "Right, the guy who told you lowered his image," he said, as if he were reciting an itemized receipt. "He's getting married." Eli made a thoughtful sound. "I assume you're thrilled for him on a spiritual level." "I'm catering it," I said. The knife stopped completely. He turned, hands braced on the cutting board, giving me the slow, careful stare he uses when a new line cook says something like, "Do I really have to label dairy?" "You're catering his wedding." "Mm-hmm." "Why?" "Because," I said, "I was personally requested." Eli blinked. Then he let out a long, appreciative low whistle. "Holy." "Okay, I take back every time I've said you don't get out enough." "I never said yes yet," I said, "but I'm going to." Eli tapped the knife against the board. "This is where I say, talk me through your motives before I help you commit to something that ends with at least one food fight and a security escort." I pointed at him. "That's why you're my favorite." "Uh-huh," he said. "Start talking more." I told him the short version, not the sentimental cut, not the "we were in love once" cut. That part bores me now. I gave him the bones. Waitress wife, law school husband, slow drip of contempt, public shove out. Then the part where Ryan told me not to come to his graduation because I was not a good fit for the room, and the part where he moved out for convenience, like I was a storage unit, not a person. Then I told him about Vanessa, about the social media posts, the fast-forward romance, the high-heel, slim-waist firm associate who apparently replaced me like you'd replace worn floor mats. And finally, yesterday's phone call. "Wow," Eli said after a beat. So he looked at the entire catering scene and said, "You know who should cook the food at my fancy new start? The woman I insulted, dumped, and downgraded from wife to household appliance." "Correct." "That's bold," he said. "It's arrogant," I said, "which is basically bold without intelligence." Eli nodded. "And you want to be there because—" I smiled. "Because he thinks I'm still the girl he walked away from. The extra, the invisible. He thinks I'm going to show up in black pants and say congratulations with moist eyes." "You're not doing moist eyes," Eli said. "Oh, I might cry," I said. "From laughter." Eli snorted. I tapped the new notebook. "We're going to design a menu that will make the entire Willow Creek wedding committee talk for a year. We're going to run service like a machine. We're going to be flawless. And then, in front of his firm, his future in-laws, and every person whose opinion he ever worshipped like a mirror, we're going to tell the truth." "Define the truth," Eli said slowly. "That he built his perfect career with my money. That he told me I wasn't good enough for his photo ops. That he moved out while we were still married, then introduced his new choice 1 week later, like she'd been waiting in a storage locker." I paused. "That part's just flavor." Eli rubbed his jaw. "Okay. And what about legal risk? Because I enjoy chaos, but I'm still trying to pay off my student loans." "We keep it factual," I said. "Nothing I can't show a receipt for. Nothing physical. No broken noses. No sugar in the gas tank." "Lena." "Fine," I said. "No sugar in the gas tank." He thought about it. "I have follow-up questions about the no broken noses line, but we'll circle back." "Relax," I said, patting his arm. "We're going for social ruin, not handcuffs." His eyebrow lifted. "I like how casually you say, ruin." "I've had practice." Eli stared at me another second, then grinned slow and wide. Okay, I'm in. You're in? Absolutely. When do we meet the happy couple? There was a warmth in my chest at that. Not soft warmth, not romantic. More like the heat that builds right before a pan catches and caramelizes just right. Tomorrow, I said. Venue walk through on Saturday. And guess where? Please say country club, he said. Country club. He actually laughed. Of course. That place, Willow Creek Country Club, is less a club and more a gilded terrarium for people who believe regular air is for other people. Membership wait list, valet, white brick, black shutters, perfect hedges cut into spheres like they're auditioning for a garden magazine. You can smell the quiet superiority in the parking lot. I hadn't been invited through those doors when I was married to Ryan. That part is important, because now I get the back entrance used by staff. You know what's better than entering their fantasy world as a guest? Entering as the person who runs it from behind the curtain. Willow Creek teaches you the same lesson kitchens do. The people with the most power aren't always the ones in gowns. Sometimes it's the one holding the clipboard and the seating chart. Right before I left the kitchen to go to my office, Diane walked in. Diane Carter, caramel hair, suburban smile, talent for collecting and redistributing information with the speed of a city wire. She used to hand me tissues on my worst nights. She also once told half the neighborhood that Ryan was outgrowing me, like I was last season's purse. I learned she wasn't cruel exactly. She was just thrilled to be needed, by anyone. Lena, she stage whispered, which meant she wanted everyone to hear. Tell me it's true. I didn't even look up. Depends what it is. I've done a lot of things. I heard, she said, coming closer, from Michelle in HOA, who heard from her sister, who heard from one of the planners who books at Willow Creek, that you are catering Ryan Moore's wedding. The kitchen went still. Not quiet, never quiet, but still in energy. You could feel ears turn. I took my time tying my apron. Yeah, I said. That's true. Diane made a noise that belonged in a church pew. Oh, my word. If you pray, I said, pray for their staffing because their current kitchen layout is a mess. Her eyes sparkled in that way that meant she smelled high-grade scandal. Are you going to, She leaned in and whispered louder than she probably meant to. Do anything. Like serve shrimp that's a day old, I said. Oh, don't you dare, Eli muttered. I patted his shoulder. Relax. I wouldn't insult shrimp like that. Diane fidgeted. So you're just going to show up and cook and smile and be nice? Of course, I said sweetly. I'm a professional. Eli coughed into his arm to hide a laugh. Diane exhaled. Well, I will say one thing, honey. If I were Vanessa, I wouldn't sleep easy this week. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, and why is that? Diane leaned in, dropping her voice to that delicious neighborhood whisper. People talk, people from the firm. Women talk. And the word is, that one thought she won. She's been acting like she upgraded from regular life to partner wife in one jump. I heard she already ordered a license plate frame that says, EMS's Cole Moore Council. Isn't that tacky? Super tacky, Eli said. Also illegal to put that many words on a frame. Diane kept going, happy now. She talks like you were some charity case he had to outgrow, that he had to shake free of emotional baggage to become who he really is. Can you even imagine? My smile felt steady, controlled. Wow. I know, Diane whispered, thrilled. I'd never say that to your face, obviously. You just did, Eli said. She ignored him completely. But also, she went on, I'm glad you're going. Honestly, Lena, you deserve this. My eyes narrowed slightly. I deserve what? Her lashes fluttered. Closure. There it was, the word everyone throws at a woman like confetti so she'll stop making them uncomfortable. Closure. Translation. Please wrap your pain in something pretty, so we don't have to look at it during brunch. I smiled slow. Sweet of you, Diane. Truly. But I'm not going for closure. No? No, I said. I'm going for service excellence. Eli choked again. Diane blinked, confused, then thrilled all over again because she didn't understand, but she could tell it was good. Well, she said, if you need anything at all, I am right down the street. I can help with tastings. I have a sensitive palate. You put ranch on salmon, Eli said. It's a pairing, she argued. When she finally left, Eli slid onto the stool next to me at my tiny office desk. Closure, he repeated, mimicking her tone. Wow. I don't want closure, I said. I want narrative control. He gave a low, approving hum. That's solid. I flipped open my notebook. Page 1, the wedding. I wrote 3 bullet points. Menu, perfect. Service, flawless. Message, undeniable. Eli pointed. Message. That worries me. On a scale from 1 to restraining order, how undeniable are we talking? Public but calm, I said. No shouting, no throwing, no grabbing, no chaos that makes me look unstable. He expects emotional. We're giving composed. Because composed terrifies corporate men, he said. That's right, I said. Angry can be dismissed. Calm gets repeated. He leaned back. Okay, so we build our moment. Where does it happen? Toast? Cake? Not cake, I said. 2 on the nose. Also, too many cameras are pointed at the couple at cake. We don't need me going viral with a weird frosting face in the background. True. Toast is good, I said. But not the official toast. I don't want a mic. The mic makes it a speech. I want conversation range. I want people leaning in. Gossip spread, he said, nodding. Smart. We mapped it right there between produce invoices and a delivery schedule for Saturday. The layout of the country club ballroom, the position of the head table, the probable spot where the partners from his firm would cluster to congratulate themselves for mentoring promising talent like Ryan. The bar, the catering service doors. I knew the rhythm of events like this: cocktail hour, seating, first course, toasts, main course, dancing, cake, more dancing, tearful moments in corners. Trust me, catering a nice suburban wedding is 90% food and 10% light scandal at round tables. If you don't give them scandal, they'll make some themselves, and usually it's weak. I was planning to give them better material. At one point, Eli said, "You're smiling." "I know," I said. "You haven't smiled like that in years." I paused. "That obvious?" "Yep." I sat back and stared at the notebook. It wasn't happiness, not exactly. It was more like finally getting to sit in the chair at a hearing where you've only ever been the silent supporting spouse in the gallery. I'd spent 6 years turning all that hurt into motion. Morning shifts, double shifts, no vacations, reinvesting instead of buying nice shoes, learning numbers, learning contracts, smiling at vendors who underestimated me, and then using that underestimation to get better terms. This wasn't about wanting Ryan back. I didn't want him. I wanted my work back, my effort, my name in the story. I wanted him to feel what it's like to be erased. And yes, maybe I wanted Vanessa to feel a fraction of what she'd helped build. Not pain, just clarity. A little spotlight on the part where she got engaged to someone who still had legal ties to someone else and called that ambition. While we were still in the office, my cell lit up again. Same event planner from yesterday. I put it on speaker. "Hi, Meredith," I said. "This is Lena." "Hi, Lena. I'm so glad I caught you. We're confirming Saturday at 2 for the tasting and walkthrough at Willow Creek. The couple will be there, along with some family." "Perfect," I said, clicking my pen. "Who's attending?" "Groom, bride, bride's parents, maybe an uncle, possibly the groom's uncle Harold. He's vocal." "Vocal how?" Eli mouthed. I covered the mic. "We'll find out," I mouthed back. Meredith continued. "Also, just to clarify our notes, your business is Morehouse Catering, but the owner is—" "I'm sorry, I want to make sure I have this right." Lena Moore? That's right, I said pleasantly. There was a small pause on the other end. Oh, Meredith said. Oh. Something wrong? I asked, syrup sweet. No, she said quickly. It's just that last name. I didn't realize. I'm sure the groom will explain, I said. When I hung up, Eli leaned back and put his feet on my desk. He hasn't told her, he said. I know, I said. He hasn't told anyone, he said. I know. Eli let out a slow, delighted whistle. Oh, this is going to be art. That night, after close, I drove through Willow Creek the long way home. Willow Creek at night looks quiet and perfect. The porch lights are warm. The hedges are trimmed into shapes that look accidental, but probably cost more per month than my first car payment. You can practically taste the effort people put into pretending everything is fine. This place loves the performance of nice. It worships stable. It claps the loudest for polished stories. It does not know what to do with a waitress who built 3 kitchens and shows up with receipts. I rolled past the country club gates, just slow enough to see the entry hall through the glass. Chandeliers, marble, a staircase that exists purely so brides can glide down it while everyone films and sighs. I imagined Vanessa practicing her steps in her head. I imagined Ryan standing at the bottom, proud of his own curation. Successful career, perfect partner, new circle, no history. Then I pictured his face when he smelled rosemary from my roasted chicken and looked up and saw me in chef black, hair up, clipboard in hand. I pictured the second after recognition, not heartbreak. No, I wasn't interested in his feelings like that. I pictured confusion, panic, scramble. Ryan hates scramble. He plans, he curates, he controls, he edits his own story like it's a resume. He writes himself in as self-made and honorable. And that was when I knew exactly what the first line out of my mouth was going to be at that tasting. Not yelling, not accusing, nothing dramatic to make me look unstable. Just this. Hi, Ryan. Long time. I'm catering your wedding. I assume Vanessa knows who I am? Simple, clear, loaded with social shrapnel. Because here is the rule of any nice suburb. You can mistreat people, sure. You can be smug. You can trade partners like seasonal throw pillows. You can reinvent yourself like last year never happened. Plenty of people do it. But you cannot get caught being impolite. You cannot get caught being cruel in a way that makes other people uncomfortable to be seen with you. I don't need to hurt him physically. I just need every important person in his orbit to watch him squirm. I need them to see what he did and what he is, and then quietly distance themselves because he's now socially radioactive. That, in Willow Creek, is exile. I went home, showered off the day, sat on the edge of my bed with my hair in a towel, and wrote in the notebook again. Phase 1, tasting, objectives. Establish presence. Expose lies by asking polite questions in front of audience. Stay calm, stay professional, smile, risks. Ryan tries to pull me aside privately. Vanessa turns on tears. Uncle Harold goes loud. Counter. Refuse private talk with a smile. We'll keep this transparent. If Vanessa gets dramatic, stay gentle. I'm sorry you're upset. I assumed you knew he was married to me when he left. If Harold gets loud, I'll ask, would you like to cancel our service? We have other couples waiting. That will shut him up in front of a planner. Then I wrote one last line and circled it 3 times. Do not let him talk you out of this. Because somewhere, under the sarcasm and control and nice pressed chef coat I wear to meetings, there is still the part of me that once sat at a thrift store kitchen table and ironed a graduation gown for a man who said I wouldn't understand his world. There's still the part of me that heard, from now on, you don't exist to me, and ran out of our place shaking and humiliated while he straightened his tie in the mirror. That part remembers. That part isn't interested in closure. That part is interested in delivery. The tasting day started bright and chirpy, the way only a Saturday can be when the rest of the town is still half asleep and you're already 10 steps into a revenge plan disguised as a business meeting. I put on my chef blacks, pressed, immaculate, no smudges. Not because I cared about impressions. I cared about symmetry. He once told me my apron looked too waitressy. Today, I looked like authority. Eli was already loading trays into the catering van when I walked in. "Morning, boss," he said. "You ready to waltz into enemy territory?" "Waltz," I said, adjusting my cuffs. "No, I'm about to choreograph." The drive to Willow Creek Country Club felt shorter than I remembered, probably because I'd rehearsed every line in my head until my heartbeat synced with the rhythm of my words. When we pulled up, the gates opened automatically. It's amazing how polite security gets when you arrive with the catering truck that controls the menu. The ballroom looked like a catalogue page, chandeliers glinting, round tables draped in linen so white it almost glowed. Meredith, the event planner, spotted us immediately and came running in heels that probably cost a month's rent. "Lena, you made it," she said brightly. Her voice had the enthusiasm of someone who'd been told to smile through anything. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. And then, right on cue, the door opened again. And in walked Ryan. He hadn't changed much. A little sharper around the jaw, a little more expensive around the wrists. His suit was grey, perfectly tailored, tie knotted so tight it looked uncomfortable. He froze for a half-second when he saw me. Not long, just enough to register the shock before the polite mask slid back into place. "Lena," he said, tone neutral. "Wow, it's been a while." I smiled. "Has it?" Meredith blinked, sensing the tension but too well trained to ask. She turned as the bride entered. Vanessa Moore, tall, perfect hair, diamonds like punctuation marks. Her smile wavered when her eyes met mine. "Oh," she said softly, "you're..." "The caterer," I finished for her. "Head chef and owner of Morehouse Catering. We're honored to serve you both." Ryan coughed, tugging at his collar. "Right, small world." I leaned just close enough for him to hear. "You requested me. I'd call it fate." Eli arrived with sample plates before Ryan could respond. "Shall we start with the appetizers?" he asked, all business. We arranged the tasting like a performance, each course a beat, each bite an opportunity. The bride's parents sat nearby, polite smiles hiding judgment. Uncle Harold, the vocal one, turned out to be the kind of man who calls waiters son and thinks it's charming. "So, Lena," he said mid-sample, "how do you know our Ryan?" The question was innocent enough, but the table's energy flickered. Ryan's hand froze on his glass. Vanessa's fork clinked. Meredith's pen stopped mid-scribble. I smiled, calm as a glass of still water. "We were married," I said. The silence that followed was delicious. Vanessa's mother blinked. "Married?" "Legally," I confirmed, keeping my tone professional. "For 6 years. I supported him through law school." Harold laughed nervously. "You're joking." "Never at work," I said. "He asked me not to come to his graduation, said I might embarrass him. You know how image is in law." Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "Ryan," she whispered. Ryan shifted in his chair. That's out of context." "Oh, of course," I said, handing him the next sample plate. "Try the rosemary chicken. It's seasoned with irony." Eli nearly choked, trying to hide his grin. Meredith's pen scratched furiously against her notepad. The bride's father cleared his throat, mumbled something about needing air, and walked toward the patio. Ryan leaned in, voice low. "What are you doing?" I kept my eyes on the table. "Serving." Vanessa stood abruptly. "Excuse me," she muttered, storming off toward the restroom. Her mother followed, whispering furiously. When they were gone, Ryan hissed, "You've made your point." I turned to him, still smiling. "Oh, Ryan, that wasn't the point. That was the appetizer." Eli stepped in like a stage manager calling intermission. "Shall we move on to the main course?" The rest of the tasting continued in tense silence. Vanessa returned eventually, face pale but chin high. She tried to act composed, commenting on the sauce, complimenting the service. But her voice trembled every time I addressed her as Mrs. Moore. By the end, the planner clapped awkwardly. "Well, that was informative." Ryan muttered something about reviewing contracts. Vanessa refused dessert. Uncle Harold avoided eye contact. As they left, Ryan paused beside me. "You've made a scene." "No," I said. "I made a memory." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off with a gentle smile. "I'll see you at the wedding, counselor." When they were gone, Eli exhaled hard. I think I just watched social combustion happen in real time. That, I said, gathering the sample dishes, was only ignition. He looked at me, half amused, half awed. "You're terrifying." "Thank you," I said. "Now let's design the menu that'll end careers." The week that followed was a study in whispers. Diane cornered me at the grocery store, her voice a mix of horror and delight. "Lena, everyone's talking about that tasting. Word is the bride ran out crying." I shrugged. "Maybe she didn't like the seasoning." Diane gasped. "You didn't—" "I served food," I said. "And some truth. It's not my fault if people have allergies." By Wednesday, the country club had confirmed the booking. Eli waved the contract like a victory flag. They actually hired us again. "Of course," I said. "They can't unbook now. It's too public. Imagine the questions." He grinned. "You're a menace." I sipped my coffee. I'm a professional. On the wedding day, the air shimmered with summer heat and tension. Guests arrived in pastel dresses and designer suits, all smiles, all secrets. The staff moved like clockwork under my direction. No mistakes. Not one. Ryan avoided the kitchen. Vanessa tried to, but curiosity won. She appeared just as we plated the main course. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. I didn't look up from the sauce I was pouring. "Doing what?" "Being here, ruining everything." I finally met her eyes. "Oh, sweetheart, I didn't ruin anything. I'm just serving what was already cooked." She flushed. "You're jealous." "Of what? A repeat performance?" For a second she looked like she might slap me, but she didn't. She left, heels clicking like punctuation marks. Eli slid beside me. "That was action scene number 1, he murmured. "What's next?" "Dessert," I said. "Always dessert." Outside, the ceremony music began. Violins and vows and all the hollow promises that sound sincere until you remember the last time you heard them. I checked my reflection in the steel counter. Calm, collected, ready. Because sometimes revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's plated, garnished, and brought out under silver lids, right on schedule. If weddings are theatre, this one was Broadway on steroids. Every petal, every napkin fold, every perfectly staged photo op screamed perfection. The kind of perfection that costs a small mortgage and hides 1,000 hairline cracks under satin and string lights. I stood at the edge of the ballroom, clipboard in hand, headset on, pretending to review the schedule while really reviewing him. Ryan looked exactly like the poster child of success. Navy tucks, confident posture, glass of champagne, always half full. He worked the room like a campaign trail. Every handshake was measured, every smile calculated. The partners from his firm clustered nearby, laughing too loudly, already discussing promotions. The kind of men who use words like prestigious unironically. I hadn't seen him this close since the day he packed his things. He looked taller now, or maybe I'd just stopped looking up. Eli's voice crackled in my ear. "Dinner's ready for release in 10. You sure you're good?" "I'm great," I said. "Just waiting for the music cue." "Music cue?" "You'll see." Outside, the string quartet shifted seamlessly from Pachelbel to a slow pop instrumental. The signal for servers to start moving. The chandeliers dimmed slightly, the golden light sliding across the tables like honey. The crowd buzzed with approval. Nothing Willow Creek loves more than soft lighting and soft gossip. We rolled out the first course like clockwork. Salad plates placed, wine poured, napkins refolded for the ones too busy talking to notice. My team was flawless. You could have filmed us for a catering commercial. Perfection you can taste. Only I wasn't selling food tonight. From across the room, Ryan saw me. For a moment, our eyes locked. He lifted his glass in a tiny mocking toast. I smiled back, slow and unbothered. Then, right when the second course arrived, came the first tiny spark of chaos. Uncle Harold, naturally. "Excuse me," he said loudly, addressing no one and everyone. "I just want to say, this meal is outstanding. The chicken is phenomenal." He gestured toward me. "What did you say your name was again, young lady?" I stepped forward politely. "Lena Moore." He nodded. "Moore, right. That's funny, same as our Ryan." I smiled. "Yes, coincidence." He grinned, oblivious. "You two related?" "Once," I said. "By law." Laughter rolled across the table, a ripple of amusement from people who thought it was a joke. Then realization dawned. A few gasps. Forks paused mid-air. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Uncle, that's enough." But Harold wasn't finished. Hold on. Are you telling me this fine young woman—" He pointed with his fork. "Is your ex-wife?" The crowd stilled. The partners' laughter faded into awkward silence. Vanessa froze, hand on her glass. Every phone in the vicinity might as well have grown an antenna. "Yes," I said, smiling pleasantly. "He didn't mention me." You could practically hear the social math happening in their heads. Ex-wife, caterer, same last name, 6 years. Oh. Vanessa set her glass down too hard. The stem snapped. Champagne spilled across the tablecloth like an accident scripted by karma. Ryan's voice dropped low. "This isn't the time." I tilted my head. "No, you're right. The time was 6 years ago when you asked me not to attend your graduation because you were ashamed I worked in a diner. This is just dessert." The words carried, soft but clear. People near us pretended to check their phones while obviously listening. Ryan turned to me sharply. "Enough." Eli appeared at my side, like backup summoned by intuition. "Everything okay here?" he asked, voice calm but firm. "Perfect," I said. "Just a moment of nostalgia." Vanessa's mother stood, face pale. "Ryan, is this true?" He opened his mouth, but I beat him to it. "Completely. He told me I embarrassed him, said I didn't belong in his world. Then he emptied our savings account and disappeared into his law firm dream. But look at him now, married into a family with matching dinnerware." A murmur swept through the room, the satisfying sound of reputations fracturing. Ryan's partner tried to recover the mood. "Let's maybe focus on the celebration." I smiled at him. "Of course. I just wanted to clarify the backstory. It's important to know where the success began, right?" Vanessa's face went crimson. "You're cruel." I met her gaze evenly. "Cruel? No. I'm thorough." Then the cameras flashed. Someone, probably Diane, who I spotted near the floral arch pretending to check her makeup, had started recording. Oh, it would be everywhere by morning. "Waitress ex-wife caters husband's wedding," practically writes its own headline. Eli leaned closer. "We've officially hit detonation," he murmured. "Not yet," I said quietly. "Just the pre-show." By the time the cake was wheeled out, the atmosphere had changed from joy to tension, masked as politeness, the kind of air that smells like ozone before a storm. Ryan tried to make a toast. His hand trembled slightly as he lifted the microphone. "Tonight," he began, voice steady but thin, "is about love and new beginnings." "Funny word, new," I said from the back, projecting just enough to carry. "Considering how old some of the history is." The crowd tittered. A few gasped. Vanessa glared. Ryan's expression froze halfway between fury and panic. He handed the mic back to the DJ and strode toward me. "Outside," he said quietly. Eli tensed beside me. "You sure?" he murmured. I nodded. "Let him." Ryan led me through the side door into the service corridor, away from the music and whispers. The sound of clinking glasses faded behind us. He turned on me. "What do you want, Lena?" I folded my arms. "For you to tell the truth." This spectacle, it's insane. You think humiliating me helps you?" "Oh, it's not for me," I said calmly. "It's for the girl you told I didn't exist. The one who ironed your graduation gown while you practiced your smile." His jaw flexed. "You're still bitter." "No," I said. "I'm balanced. There's a difference." He ran a hand through his hair. "You could have called. We could have talked like adults." "Adults don't erase people, Ryan. They face them." He sighed, glancing toward the ballroom door. "You're ruining my life." I laughed softly. "No, I'm just reminding it where it started." Then, before he could answer, a shriek cut through the air. Not of fear, but outrage. We both turned. Through the glass doors, Vanessa stood frozen as someone pointed at a large projection screen. The DJ had connected his slideshow of Ryan and Vanessa's journey, except one of the photos wasn't supposed to be there. There, on a 30-foot screen, was a candid picture of Ryan and me, years ago at our wedding, smiling, broke, happy, and under it, my restaurant's logo. Courtesy of Diane, apparently. She'd emailed it earlier for context, bless her nosy heart. The guests gasped, phones lifted like a field of glowing confessions. Vanessa's mother pressed a hand to her chest. The father looked like he wanted to vanish. The entire night dissolved into murmurs. Ryan's shoulders sagged. "You win," he said quietly. I stepped closer. "No, Ryan, I just stopped losing." The next 10 minutes were chaos disguised as decorum. Guests whispered, journalists from local lifestyle magazines started snapping photos, and the event planner tried to salvage what was left of her sanity. Vanessa stormed out with her bridesmaids, mascara streaking like war paint. Her mother followed, hissing something about annulments. Ryan sat alone at the head table, staring at the half-eaten cake. I walked past him, stopping just long enough to whisper, "You once said I'd never understand your world. Turns out I built mine better." Then I nodded to Eli. "Pack up the crew." As we rolled the carts out through the service exit, the murmur of the ballroom faded behind us. The night air felt light, charged, clean. Eli whistled low. That, he said, was social demolition, executed flawlessly. I smiled, watching the country club lights fade in the rearview mirror. "Dessert's done," I said. "Now comes the garnish." Because the thing about perfection, once it cracks, it never looks the same again, no matter how you try to smooth the surface. And tomorrow, Willow Creek would wake up buzzing, plate still dirty, champagne still sticky, everyone asking the same question. "Did you hear what happened at the Moore wedding?" That's how you end a story. Not with tears or apologies, but with silence loud enough to echo through every manicured lawn. The story didn't stop when the champagne dried. It just changed venues. By Sunday morning, the whispers had spread faster than any newspaper headline could dream of. My phone buzzed non-stop, not from guilt or confrontation, but from congratulations, half-masked as curiosity. Diane called first, naturally. "Lena, oh my goodness, do you know you're trending? People are calling it the wedding reveal of the year. There's even a clip. You saying something about irony and chicken. You look fierce." "Wonderful," I said dryly. "Tell them I'm available for private parties." Eli chuckled in the background, flipping pancakes on the stove. "You know you've made it when Diane calls before your morning coffee." "She'd call the police before dialing 911, I muttered. "She just likes being first." I didn't go online to check. I didn't need to. I already knew what people would see. The poised ex-wife, the smirking groom, the trembling bride. Every frame dripping with perfect suburban drama. Ryan's name trended alongside mine by noon. By sunset, his firm had paused his promotion, citing internal matters. By Monday, his photo had disappeared from their website entirely. Eli printed the article and taped it to the fridge at the restaurant. For morale, he said. I raised an eyebrow. You're enjoying this too much. He grinned. I'm enjoying watching a man trip over his own ego. It's art. But art wasn't done yet, because if Ryan had learned anything from law, it was damage control. And if I'd learned anything from restaurants, it was that the mess always gets worse before cleanup. On Tuesday afternoon, while prepping for a corporate lunch order, my assistant told me a visitor was waiting in my office. I assumed it was a supplier, maybe a client. I was wrong. Vanessa sat in my chair, not her assistant, not a lawyer, not a representative, just her. Perfect posture, immaculate blouse, sunglasses on the desk like armor. She smiled thinly. I thought I'd save us both the trouble of pretending we wouldn't meet again. I closed the door behind me. Can I get you coffee? Or do we skip straight to the lecture? I don't drink coffee, she said. Stains the teeth. Good thing bitterness doesn't, I replied, sitting opposite her. Her lips tightened. You enjoyed that wedding fiasco. I enjoyed the truth, I said simply. You humiliated me. Collateral effect. She leaned forward. You think this makes you better? That people see you as some heroine? Please. They see a bitter ex who couldn't move on. Maybe, I said, but at least they're seeing me. That's an improvement from non-existent. Vanessa looked me over like I was a species she'd read about but never encountered in person. You could have handled it privately. I laughed softly. Privately? Like the way he handled his engagement while still married to me. No, privacy's overrated. She exhaled sharply, stood up, and paced the small office. You know what really bothers me? You planned it, every detail, like it was some twisted catering special, revenge à la carte. That's not bad, I said. Might use it on the menu. She spun on her heel. You think you're untouchable now, don't you? I met her glare evenly. No, just unafraid. For a moment, she looked like she might lunge across the desk. Instead, she smoothed her hair, smiled thinly, and said, You'll regret this. I stood too. Careful, Vanessa. Threats don't suit silk. She opened her purse, dropped something onto my desk, a sleek set of car keys, metallic red logo gleaming. You forgot your tip, she said and swept out. Eli appeared in the doorway just as the door swung shut. What was that hurricane doing here? Returning temptation, I said, and leaving opportunity. He frowned. What opportunity? I dangled the keys. Her car, parked right outside, convertible red, probably insured within an inch of its life. Eli's eyes widened. No, Lena. Oh, relax, I said, grabbing my jacket. I'm not going to break anything. Define break, he said, following me out. The parking lot behind the restaurant gleamed under late afternoon sun. Vanessa's car waited near the curb, shining like a trophy. I circled it once, admiring. Nice machine, I murmured. Shame it's so impersonal. Eli stood a few feet away, arms crossed. You're going to get arrested for something that isn't even worth the gas. I'm not vandalizing, I said. I'm accessorizing. From my bag, I pulled a small can of biodegradable glitter spray, the kind we use for festive events. Non-toxic, washable, but dramatic under sunlight. Lena, he said slowly, what are you... I shook the can, aimed, and pressed the nozzle. In perfect cursive across the hood appeared shimmering words, the other woman. The glitter sparkled, bold and taunting, shifting color with the angle of the light. Eli doubled over, laughing. You're insane. Creative, I corrected. It'll wash off, eventually. Within minutes, staff from nearby stores started peeking out their doors. Phones emerged. Someone whistled. The small crowd grew. And then, right on cue, Vanessa appeared. Too early for coincidence. Maybe she'd been waiting. Maybe she'd forgotten something. Maybe fate just loves timing. She froze. What did you... Oh, relax, I said. It's eco-friendly. You humiliated me again, she snapped, voice rising. I smiled. Then we're even. She lunged forward, hand raised, but I stepped back calmly. Don't, I said. Not here, not in front of all these witnesses. They love a scandal almost as much as you do. Her hand trembled mid-air, then dropped. Cameras clicked. Someone laughed. Vanessa's face hardened. You'll regret this, she hissed again, before storming off toward a waiting rideshare. Eli watched her leave, then looked at me, still laughing. That's art. Petty, shiny art. Thank you, I said. Now let's go back inside before the paint dries. By the next morning, the photo was everywhere. Social feeds, gossip blogs, even the local morning show. Headline, Bride's car turned into glitter billboard by ex-wife. No names were confirmed, but everyone knew. Willow Creek always knows. Ryan tried to stay quiet, but silence in that world is confession. His reputation at the firm was gone. The new marriage, teetering. Vanessa moved into a hotel temporarily. I didn't celebrate, I just worked. The restaurant stayed full, the catering business tripled, and my staff followed my lead, calm, efficient, untouchable. But that night, when the rush was over and Eli locked up, I sat alone in my office, staring at my reflection in the glass door. For the first time, I didn't see a waitress or an ex-wife or even an avenger. I saw balance, rough, imperfect, hard-won balance. The phone buzzed once, unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Lena, Ryan's voice said quietly, we need to talk. I leaned back in my chair. You've lost that privilege. Please, just hear me out. Make it quick. I have early prep tomorrow. There was a long silence. Then he said, You don't know everything. Enlighten me. It wasn't just me. Vanessa, He stopped, exhaled. Forget it. I smiled faintly. No, Ryan, you don't get to edit anymore. He hesitated, then hung up. Eli peeked through the doorway. Everything okay? Perfect, I said, just tying up loose ends. I picked up my notebook, the same one I'd started the day I got the call about the wedding. The last page was still blank. I wrote one line, final course, served. Then, almost as an afterthought, I added another beneath it. But dessert's on the house, because somehow I knew this wasn't over yet. And if Ryan thought humiliation was the worst I could deliver, well, the night was still young, and the kitchen was always open. Rain arrived that Friday like punctuation, hard, sudden, deliberate, the kind that makes streetlights look smeared and expensive, cars hesitate at every turn. It was poetic, really. The suburbs love a little atmosphere when reputations unravel. I stayed late at the restaurant, pretending to balance invoices while mostly watching the water trace paths down the window. The doorbell chimed once, twice. I didn't look up until I heard a familiar voice. Lena. Ryan stood at the entrance, soaked through his perfect grey suit. His hair was plastered to his forehead, his tie loose, shoes leaving dark marks on the tile. He looked less like a lawyer and more like a headline waiting to happen. Bold of you to come unannounced, I said. You know, people usually book reservations first. He ignored the jab. We need to talk. I already heard that this week. It didn't go well. This isn't about the wedding, he said, stepping closer. It's about everything after. I folded my arms. You mean the part where your new wife's car turned into a disco ball? Or the part where your firm scrubbed your name from their website? His jaw tightened. You think this is funny? I think it's balanced, I said. Finally. He exhaled through his nose, tried for calm. You've made your point, Lena. I'm the villain. Congratulations. But there are things you don't know. I know plenty. You stole my savings, rewrote our history, and tried to pretend I was a footnote. The rest is footnotes to that. He shook his head. You think Vanessa was innocent? She wasn't. She leaked my client's information to a rival firm, trying to make me look incompetent so she could climb faster. When I found out, I was already trapped in the PR mess you started. I raised an eyebrow. So your defense is that you married someone just like you? For a moment, he almost laughed. Maybe, but you can't keep playing judge. Oh, I'm not judging, I said. I'm observing, and the observation is, poetic justice has good taste. He stepped closer, eyes tired but sharp. You could have ruined me quietly. Instead, you turned it into theatre. Ryan, I said, you built your whole life around theatre. I just joined the cast. He rubbed his face. I'm being investigated. My accounts are frozen. The firm's calling it a compliance review, but I'm finished. You're saying this like I'm supposed to apologize. He looked up then, something raw flickering behind the exhaustion. You enjoyed this. I thought about it. I enjoyed reclaiming my story. You were just the material. He laughed once, low, bitter. You've changed. Good. I was tired of being your understudy. He stepped back, shoulders dropping. So, that's it. No mercy, no truce. You never asked for mercy when you left me behind, I said softly. You just wanted silence. Outside, thunder cracked, loud enough to rattle the windows. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said quietly, Vanessa moved out. She's threatening to go public about everything. She says she'll drag you into it if she has to. Let her, I said. I don't scare easily. She's vindictive, Lena. You think you humiliated her. She's got nothing left to lose. Neither do I said. Difference is, I've already made peace with that. He studied me for a long time, then gave a small, tired smile. You win. I picked up my jacket. I wasn't competing. He opened his mouth to say something else, but I'd already turned away. The conversation was finished, and so was the person I used to be when his voice could make my pulse skip. Outside, the rain had eased into a mist. I locked up the restaurant, umbrella forgotten somewhere inside. The air smelled of wet asphalt and finality. I started walking toward my car when I heard another engine nearby. A low, expensive hum. A red convertible pulled into the lot. Even through the rain, the glitter letters on the hood still shimmered faintly under the streetlights. Vanessa stepped out, dry under a tan trench coat. Her hair was perfect, of course. Her smile wasn't. Well, she said, look at us. The ex and the ex-to-be. I sighed. If you're here to demand an apology, you'll be standing in the rain a long time. Oh, I don't need an apology. She walked closer, heels clicking on the wet pavement. I just came to see what victory looks like. I thought it would be louder. It doesn't need to be, I said. Quiet wins last longer. She laughed. You really think you're the hero here, don't you? The brave little underdog who taught the bad man a lesson. You're not special, Lena. You're just another woman who thought revenge would fix the hole. I met her gaze. And you're another woman who thought a man could. For a second, something flickered across her face. Recognition, maybe. Then she smirked. Enjoy your restaurant. I'm leaving town. You can keep the glitter. She turned back toward the car. I called after her. Vanessa. She stopped. Didn't turn. Next time, I said, pick a story where you're not the accessory. She hesitated, then got in and drove off. The car's taillight smeared across the wet street, vanishing into the dark. Back inside, Eli was waiting with 2 mugs of tea. He didn't ask questions, just handed me one. Ryan, he asked finally. Gone, again. And the other one? Sparkly and dramatic as always. He nodded, thoughtful. So that's the end. I looked around the kitchen, quiet, gleaming, mine. The ovens hummed softly, the smell of rosemary lingering from earlier prep. It was peaceful, but alive, the way success should smell. Yes, I said. That's the end. He raised his mug. To closure. I smiled faintly. To control. We clinked cups.